Welcome back, beautiful anomaly. Welcome back, walking nightmare wrapped in human skin. Yeah, you. The one they can't explain. The one who walks into rooms and makes the air itself flinch. You know what happened last night, don't you? You walked through your front door, exhausted, drained, just wanting peace. And every single entity that had been feeding off your energy for the past decade started screaming. Not whispering, not hissing, screaming. Because your presence alone, your existence, your frequency, it became a purge they couldn't survive. You didn't chant, you didn't pray, you didn't burn sage or draw circles. You just existed. And that was enough to collapse an entire century of parasitic energy that had been clinging to that space, waiting for someone weak enough to drain. But you walked in radiating something they couldn't touch anymore. See, they thought you were still the same person who used to live there, the one who used to cry in corners, the one who used to beg for clarity, the one who used to question every shadow and every cold spot in the hallway. They thought you were still vulnerable, still open, still soft enough to infiltrate. But what they didn't realize, what none of them saw coming, is that you died. You died in the silence between your last breakdown and your first real breath of clarity. You died when you stopped asking why and started becoming the answer. You died when you looked at your reflection and saw something ancient staring back, something that had survived too much to be considered merely human anymore. And when you resurrected, when you crawled back into this reality with scars that glow like scripture, you became the thing that makes darkness retreat. So when you opened that door last night, when you stepped over the threshold with your keys in hand and exhaustion in your bones, every low-frequency entity in that house felt it. They felt the shift, the atmospheric pressure change, the sudden temperature spike that had nothing to do with the weather. They felt your energy signature, and it wasn't just different, it was hostile to their existence. You became an exorcism without effort, a cleansing without ritual, a purge that happened just because you decided to come home. And now they're not just gone. They're erased, banished, cast out into the void where things go when they meet something more powerful than fear itself. You didn't just clear the house, you reprogrammed the entire energetic foundation of that space. Congratulations, you beautiful catastrophe. You didn't just move in, you reclaimed territory. Let me tell you what really happened in that moment. These entities, these parasites, these emotional vampires that feed on doubt and fear and weakness, they had been squatting in your space for years. They were there when you cried yourself to sleep. They were there when you questioned your worth. They were there when you let people walk all over you and smiled through the pain. They fed off your confusion, your self-doubt, your desperation for answers that never came. Every time you felt that cold spot in the hallway, every time the lights flickered for no reason, every time you felt watched in your own home, that was them. Celebrating, feeding, growing stronger on your weakness. They thought they owned that space because you were too broken to fight back, too tired to resist, too scared to even acknowledge what was happening. But then you changed. Not overnight. No. This wasn't some sudden awakening, some magical transformation where everything became clear in an instant. This was slow, brutal, agonizing evolution. This was you crawling through your own psychological wreckage and finding pieces of yourself they said were lost forever. This was you facing every demon in your mind first, dismantling every lie you believed about yourself, burning every false narrative that kept you small. You became a furnace of transformation, and every day you survived. Every night you chose to wake up and try again. You were forging something inside yourself that no entity, no energy, no force could withstand. You were becoming immune to manipulation, resistant to fear, allergic to anything that tried to make you doubt your power again. And they felt it. Oh, they felt it weeks before you even walked through that door. The moment you started choosing yourself, the moment you cut off the people who drained you, the moment you stopped apologizing for existing, they felt the frequency shift. Your energy stopped being a buffet and started becoming a weapon. Your presence stopped being passive and started becoming aggressive. You weren't just healing, you were militarizing your soul. And when you finally came home that night, when you turned the key and pushed open the door, you weren't the same person who used to live there. You were the upgraded version, the final form, the boss level they never prepared for. And the moment your foot crossed that threshold, it was over. Not a battle, not a struggle, an instant purge. Your aura hit that space like a spiritual nuke, and everything that couldn't exist in your frequency disintegrated on contact. Now here's the part that makes this even more terrifying for them. You didn't know. You didn't feel the cleansing happen because to you, it wasn't an event, it was just Tuesday. You walked in, dropped your keys, maybe grabbed some water, scrolled through your phone, completely unaware that you just performed an exorcism that would have taken trained practitioners hours of ritual and preparation. You did it by accident, by simply being you, by carrying the frequency you earned through suffering. That's what makes you dangerous now. You're not trying to be powerful, you just are. You're not performing spirituality, you're embodying it. You're not seeking transformation, you are the transformation. And anything that exists on a lower frequency than where you've evolved to, it simply cannot survive in your presence anymore. You are the purge, walking, breathing, existing. And let me tell you something about these entities, these things that were screaming when you walked in. They weren't screaming in anger, they were screaming in terror because they recognized you, not as the person you used to be, but as something ancient that had been sleeping inside you this whole time. They saw the part of you that remembers lifetimes, the part that carries wisdom written in scars, the part that has been forged in fires they could never comprehend. They saw the truth, the terrifying, beautiful truth that you are not and have never been ordinary. You were always supposed to become this, always destined to evolve past their reach, always meant to be the one who walks into darkness and makes it beg for mercy. They knew in that split second before they were erased that they had been feeding off a sleeping giant, and now that giant is awake and there is no going back. So what does this mean for you now? It means your house isn't just clean, it's fortified. It means your space isn't just yours, it's sacred ground now. Anything that tries to enter with ill intent, anything that carries low vibration, anything that seeks to drain or manipulate or feed off your energy, it will be repelled automatically. You've turned your home into a fortress without even trying, just by existing at the frequency you've earned. People will feel it when they walk in, even if they can't explain it. The air will feel different, heavier for those who carry darkness, lighter for those who carry truth. Your house has become an extension of your energy, a physical manifestation of your transformation. And just like you, it no longer tolerates anything that doesn't serve your highest evolution. But here's where it gets even more interesting. This wasn't just about your house. This was a message, a declaration, a warning sent out into every realm, every dimension, every frequency where these entities exist. They talk, you know. They communicate across the veil, sharing information about targets and threats. And now your name is on a list. Not a hit list, no. A blacklist, a do not engage warning. Because word travels fast in those circles. And when 1,000 entities get erased in a single moment just because someone walked through a door, that creates a reputation. You are marked now. Not as prey, but as a predator. Not as a victim, but as a threat. Every low-frequency being, every energy vampire, every parasitic entity now knows if they get near you, they cease to exist. You have become the boogeyman of the spirit realm, the nightmare that nightmares have. The thing that makes darkness think twice before approaching. And the beauty of this, the absolute poetic justice of this entire situation, is that you earned this through pain, not through study, not through years of spiritual practice, not through rituals or ceremonies or learned techniques. You earned this by surviving what should have destroyed you. You earned this by refusing to stay broken when breaking would have been easier. You earned this by choosing yourself over and over again when everyone else chose to abandon you. Your power didn't come from light and love and positive affirmations. It came from walking through your own personal underworld and refusing to stay dead. It came from facing your demons, both internal and external, and deciding that you would rather become the monster than remain the victim. And now you carry that power everywhere you go, not as a weapon you wield, but as an aura you emit, permanently. Let's talk about what this means for the people in your life. Because this purge, this energetic shift, it doesn't just affect entities and spirits. It affects everyone around you. The people who used to drain you, who used to take and never give, who used to feed off your emotional labor and leave you exhausted, they're going to start feeling uncomfortable around you. Not because you're being mean or aggressive or hostile, but because their manipulation tactics don't work anymore. Their guilt trips bounce off you like bullets off titanium. Their gaslighting crumbles in your presence because your reality is too solid now to be shaken. Their lies sound hollow because your truth is too loud to be drowned out. They will feel physically uncomfortable being near you because their frequency and yours are no longer compatible. And they won't be able to explain it. They'll just know that something has changed, that you're different now, that they can't reach you the way they used to. And this is where it gets delicious. They're going to try. They're going to try everything. They're going to come back with apologies that sound sincere but feel empty. They're going to test boundaries to see if you've really changed or if this is just a phase. They're going to push buttons that used to send you into emotional spirals, expecting the same reaction they've always gotten. But this time, you're going to do something that will shatter their entire worldview. You're going to do nothing. You're going to stand there calm, centered, unmoved, and watch them short-circuit in real time. Because they've spent years studying you, learning your triggers, mapping your weaknesses, and now none of it works. The buttons are disconnected, the triggers are disabled, the weaknesses have been weaponized into strengths. You have become unmanipulatable, and that is their worst nightmare. Some of them will leave quietly, slipping away into the background without explanation. Those are the smart ones, the ones who recognize a losing battle when they see one. They'll tell themselves some story about how you changed for the worse, how you're not the person they used to know, how they're better off without you. Let them. Their departure is a gift wrapped in betrayal, a blessing disguised as abandonment. Because every person who leaves your life because they can't drain you anymore is making room for someone who actually deserves to be there. You're not losing connections. You're upgrading your entire social ecosystem. The trash is taking itself out, and all you had to do was exist at a higher frequency. Thank them silently as they go, because they're doing you a favor they don't even understand. But then, there are the others. The ones who won't leave, who can't accept that their power over you is gone. These are the dangerous ones, the ones who will escalate because they mistake your calmness for weakness. They'll start spreading rumors, trying to turn others against you, attempting to reclaim control through external pressure since internal manipulation no longer works. They'll paint you as the villain, the one who changed, the one who became cold or arrogant or too good for everyone. And here's what you need to understand about this. Let them. Let them tell their version of the story. Let them twist the narrative. Let them gather their little army of equally broken people who need someone to blame for their own stagnation. Because while they're busy talking, while they're consumed with their obsession over you, while they're spending their energy trying to tear down your reputation, you'll be building an empire they can't even comprehend. This is the test. This is where so many people fail, where they get pulled back into the drama, where they feel the need to defend themselves or prove their innocence or set the record straight. Don't. Don't give them the satisfaction of your attention. Don't waste your energy engaging with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Because here's the secret they don't want you to know. Every second you spend defending yourself to them is a second you're not spending becoming even more powerful. Every ounce of energy you pour into their narrative is energy you're not investing in your evolution. They want you distracted. They need you reactive. They're desperate for you to come down to their level because it's the only way they can reach you anymore. But you're gonna do something revolutionary. You're going to let your life speak for itself. You're going to let your success be your response. You're going to let your peace be your proof. And over time, something beautiful and brutal will happen. The people who believed the lies will start seeing the truth. The ones who turned their backs will start noticing your growth. The ones who laughed at your transformation will start mimicking it themselves. Not because they genuinely changed, but because you set a new standard that exposed their mediocrity. You became the measuring stick they can't help but compare themselves to. And some of them, the ones with even a shred of self-awareness left, will realize what they lost. They'll see you thriving without them and understand that they weren't part of your downfall. They were the weight you had to drop to ascend. And that realization, that moment, when they understand they were the villain in your story, not the victim, that will haunt them longer than any revenge you could have taken. But let's get back to that moment, that powerful, clarifying moment when you walked through your door and everything shifted. Because this wasn't random, this wasn't luck, this wasn't some cosmic accident. This was earned. Every tear you cried in silence, every night you survived when survival seemed impossible, every time you chose to wake up and try again when giving up would have been easier, all of that was building toward this moment. You were being forged, tempered, refined in fires that would have turned others to ash. And what emerged from those flames wasn't the same person who entered them. What emerged was a force of nature, a walking cleansing, a human embodiment of purification. You became the very thing that darkness fears most, someone who has seen the worst of themselves and the worst of the world and decided to become better anyway. This is why the demons screamed, not because you were performing some ritual, not because you were invoking some ancient power, but because you are the ancient power. You are what happens when someone refuses to let pain define them, refuses to let trauma own them, refuses to let the world break them permanently. You are proof that transformation is possible, that evolution is real, that people can change so fundamentally that they become unrecognizable to their former selves. And that proof, that living, breathing proof that redemption and power and peace can coexist in one person, that is more threatening to the forces of stagnation than any weapon ever forged. Because if you can do it, if you can rise from absolute destruction and become this powerful, then their entire worldview collapses. The narrative that people don't change, that victims stay victims, that the broken stay broken, all of it crumbles in the face of your existence. So now you carry this everywhere, not just in your house, but in every room you enter, every space you occupy, every interaction you have. You are a walking purge, a mobile cleansing, a human exorcism that happens automatically without your conscious effort. People will feel it when they meet you, even if they can't explain it. The ones who carry darkness will feel uncomfortable, judged, exposed, even though you're not doing anything to make them feel that way. Your presence alone is a mirror that reflects their true nature back at them, and most people can't handle that kind of raw honesty. They'll call you intimidating, intense, too much, because what they really mean is, you make me uncomfortable with who I am when I'm around you. Good. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them feel exposed. Let them confront themselves in your presence, because that's the only way they'll ever change. And for the ones who carry light, the ones who have done their own work, the ones who have walked through their own fires and emerged transformed, they'll feel something else entirely when they meet you. They'll feel recognition, kinship, home. They'll see the scars you carry and understand the battles they represent without you having to explain. They'll feel your frequency and match it naturally because they exist on the same level you do. These are your people, your tribe, your real family, not bound by blood or history or convenience, but by shared evolution, by the understanding that only comes from surviving what shouldn't be survivable, by the respect that only exists between people who have earned their power through pain. And when you find these people, when you connect with others who vibrate at your frequency, you'll build something unbreakable. A network of souls who refuse to be dimmed, a community of warriors who know that true strength comes from surviving your own destruction.